So I don't want to give a hesped on Rabbi Oberlander. And the reason being is, number one, I don't think I will. If you shut the door, please. Number one, I don't think I will do justice. I don't think I'll do justice to. I don't think I'll do justice to describe what type of person he was. Although I knew him, there's definitely things and stories and greatness that I did not know, and so therefore I wouldn't want to, shortchange him by trying to describe him in that type of sense. Number two, I want to speak. The Eilam, most of the Eilam doesn't know who he was, and I want to speak about things that have benefit to the Eilam. So that's what I want to focus on: learning lessons from this great person, this tzaddik, and hopefully inspiring us to be better and to learn from his example, and that should be a schus. What we're learning today and whatever good comes out should be a schus for his precious neshama. Just understand where my connection to Rabbi Oberlander. Rabbi Oberlander was the Skaminal in Waterbury, Mesivta. Before that, he was involved with the Beis Medrash as a Rebbe. When Rabbi Kaufman asked Rabbi Kalish, I was already a Rebbe in the Mesivta before Rabbi Kalish became the Menal, before he took it over. Thank God he didn't get rid of me when he took over the Mesivta. But I was already working there. It was under a different leadership. And when Rabbi Kalish came in, Rabbi Kalish, I remember Rabbi Kalish telling me that he told Rabbi Kaufman, I'm only going to take the job if Rabbi Oberlander comes with me. So Rabbi Oberlander was very, very organized. The most organized person probably I know. Super organized, had it together. And Rabbi Kalish, I think, felt he needed someone that would be able to take care of everything. Rabbi Kalish, I think, can organize when he needs to, but I don't think he would say it's his forte. He wanted someone who would keep the place well run, structured. It's a good word. Rabbi Oberlander was a very structured person. He knew how to structure things. He knew how to run things incredibly well. And he wanted Rabbi Oberlander to be the structure, to run the structure. It doesn't just mean to set up things. It's much more than that. But to be his right hand man. So really, Rabbi Oberlander gets credit. Ultimately, Rabbi Oberlander left the Mesivta. I believe it was at the same time that the Mesivta moved to Durham, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Rabbi Oberlander was with the Mesivta for 7 years, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was 7 years. Really, so everything going on in the Mesivta today, and everything that went on in the Mesivta, really is Rabbi Oberlander's credit, because I don't know if Rabbi Kalish would have even taken on the Mesivta without Rabbi Oberlander, and yes, and obviously Rabbi Oberlander's tremendous impact on the Bachrim, on the guys, throughout his years there and afterwards. He was an incredible Rebbe for the guys. He kept up with the guys years later. He was always on the phone. When he started working in Heichal, he was in the car, so he's walking to yeshiva. He was always on the phone, being in touch and helping guys. Again, I'm not going to mass with him, so that's why I'm not going to even focus on all his milas. I want to speak about a few nekudos that we should learn from, that we can take from. I believe Ray Kalish once said this along these lines. Rabbi Oberlander was a very, very capable person. He was the head, he ultimately became the head counselor in Camp Rayam. He didn't begin that counselor. I think he was there for many, many years, from camper to counselor to division head to ultimately becoming the head counselor. So he was the head counselor of Rayam, which was quite a large camp at the time. He was a very, very capable person. Ultimately, he was hired, maybe he was hired to be the principal, the Menal in Heichal. We overlapped for a year over there. So I didn't really involve with him on a daily basis, but it was definitely nice to have him around because he was with the Mesifta and I was busy with the Beis Medrash. But that to get a job like that, to head counselor of Rayam, to the Menal of Heichal, he's a very, very talented person, capable person, great skills with people, great skills with students, very professional. If he got up and spoke, he was prepared, he was polished. He's a very talented person. Why am I saying that? A lot of that is a gift from Hashem. Certainly he worked very hard. He's a very disciplined person. I would leave to go to Teaneck when I was working Heichal 10 to 6 in the morning. I still leave about 10 to 6. He would leave 5:30, I think, latest. He would leave 5:30 because he didn't want to have any traffic. He was always or early to things. He was always prepared for things. So he left 5:30. Hence, he was probably in Teaneck by 7. I left later, so I it took me longer because I had some traffic. He was there early, learning, preparing. And then getting back to my point, he could have used all his talents to be running a huge company. If you had a business, he's the guy you'd want running your business because you knew everything would get done. He was smart, he was wise, he was patient. Again, he was great with people. He had a very good presence. He was a good disciplinarian, not because he ever screamed at guys, just because he had a certain stolz. Again, I hate to use the word stolz about him because he was not arrogant. He was very humble. He was very soft-spoken. But there was just natural presence to him, natural stolz, royalty to him. So he would have been he could have made a lot of money in business. Anyone would have wanted to hire him to run the company. But he chose to use his talents. He chose to use his talents to avodas Hashem. I know other people like this. Some people, again, I don't mean to knock, but some people, maybe their talents, some people are not as talented, they couldn't do business. They could have do other things, but some people you see have a lot of talent that could have used to make a lot of money and other things, and they choose. Again, choose this. Everybody who's in chinuch is choosing to use his talents for that. But there's something to be said about somebody that has that type of skill set and uses his talents for Klal Yisrael. He wanted to use his talents for Klal Yisrael, and that's what he did. That's what he did his whole life. He used his talents for to help people. He used his talents for Klal Yisrael, which is number one, should be a lesson for us. Chevra, use your talents for Klal Yisrael. Some of us can go in chinuch. Some of us cannot. But all of us could use our talents for Klal Yisrael. You're a balabos. Look at Shlomo. You're a balabos. You're a balabos. And you're involved. You're a balabos who gets involved in a shul. You're a balabas who gets involved with kids. You see that there's kids in the shul that are struggling, and you make an einig for them. You invite them to your house Friday night. You don't have to be a machanech. You don't have to be officially a rebbe or rabbi to be involved with Klal Yisrael. Some of the greatest askanim, greatest doers for Klal Yisrael are not in chinuch. And every one of you, you may not be able to support your family through chinuch, in chinuch. You may not be your skill set either to be a Rebbe, or financial reasons, but you could be working as any job, and you could be involved with Klal Yisrael. You can be involved with Klal Yisrael. Make sure to be involved with Klal Yisrael. Don't sell yourself short. Don't say, what could I do? Because every person could do a lot. It doesn't have to always be big things. It's the small things, but be involved. Eli set up a Ben Azmanim program over Pesach. That was a huge thing that Eli did. But you can do something like that in your shul one day. In your shul one day, you could see that their kids, could set up a learning program for the kids. Set up things, do things, be involved. Be a Yid, be a Klal Yisrael Jew. Doesn't have to be big things, but be a Klal Yisrael Jew. Rabbi Oberlander was a Klal Yisrael Jew. Be a Klal Yisrael Jew. Contribute. Want to contribute. People did not know Rabbi Oberlander was sick. He did not know he was sick. 4 years ago or so, he almost passed away from COVID. I barely knew what was going on. I barely knew about it. That Hashem saved him, and gave him, I think it was 4 years ago. Hashem gave about 4 more years. 4 or 5 years, I remember. But, he had a daughter in between. But people didn't know and now he was sick since last January or a little bit before, and people did not know. There were no chats. There were no Tillim chats. Now here's a person that had hundreds, thousands of Talmidim, knew thousands of people. There were, probably about 1,000 people at the Levaya yesterday in Waterbury, and that's out in Connecticut. If it would have been New York, it'd be much more. He knew a lot of people. Once they started the Tillim chat literally a few days before he passed away. And my wife said, it wasn't just nonstop. Tillim was finished, boom, 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 boom. So many people cared about him. People didn't know. He didn't want people to be busy with him. He didn't want I don't think he wanted people's sympathy. He didn't want people to suffer. He didn't want people to worry. He was not a person that took the limelight. He really, as his role as Skam Manal, Rabbi Kalish really is more in the limelight. And he really, again, he ran, Rabbi Kalish wasn't there for Shabbos in Waterbury because Rabbi Kalish lived in Blue Ridge. So really, Rabbi Oberlander ran Shabbos and he made a beautiful oneg every week. But he was not a person he was not an attention seeker. He did not like attention, didn't look for attention. And, he did what needed to be done. Probably he didn't know half of the things that he was doing. Any person that's busy with the technical stuff of yeshiva is not getting. He got credit for things he did, but there were probably most of the things he did. He didn't. No one would notice what he was doing. He didn't look for any attention. Didn't look for any kavod, any gratitude, and he didn't want. I'm not saying that's something that what a person should do. No one should ever need this. What a person should do, I'm not coming to say, but he didn't want it. He didn't want it. I couldn't believe it. There were no gatherings. There were no gatherings in Waterbury to say Tillim from him until literally the week before he passed away. I mean, he was very sick. He was very sick. I mean, from the beginning, the illness was. I had no idea. Now I hear the illness was not a very good prognosis. Although the family, had emunah and were optimistic the whole time, but I knew I was very in the dark. After Sukkot, I knew things took a turn for the worse. He wasn't going at all to Heichal, and he was, and I saw him, I visited him, but sparingly. But he didn't want a lot of visitors. He just didn't want people's sympathy. He didn't want people's to burden themselves. He's a very private person, but the nakuda I wanna focus on is that he was a tremendous giver, not a taker. He didn't want to take. He didn't want to take. He didn't want to be on the receiving end of people's chesed, of people's worries, of people's pain. He just wanted to be a giver. Even when he was sick, he was giving. I know of somebody he was helping while he was sick. I'm sure there are many such stories. He was busy helping. He didn't want to give. I have some texts. He at the last while, I really didn't know how far to go. I didn't know when I should be texting, what I should be texting, because I didn't want to step over where he didn't want. But he just, he was. But he was a giver, not a taker, and that's probably why he had tremendous need of akar satayf. He had tremendous need of gratitude. The times I did visit him, he'd whisper. He wasn't able to talk well. He whispered, "Thank you." I spoke to somebody that took care of him every single day. He said, always thanking him, always thanking him, always thanking him. Incredibly enough, when he was still up to it, he would make him. He couldn't. His vision was not good. The last few months, it got worse at the end. But he would make him. I'm assuming a pot of coffee. He'd make him coffee. He was the Rabbi Oberlander was a coffee maven, and he was a very normal, down to earth person. He liked the l'chaim. He dressed. He was very put together. He dressed well. Not he was excessive into it, but he was just like a very normal person, relatable. But he'd make him a coffee. He'd make the guy coffee every single day. Put up a coffee for him. He tremendous akar satayv. I think that's a need of a giver. See, takers very often don't have akar satayv because you don't mind taking. Why don't we mind taking? We don't mind taking because we don't feel we owe the person giving us, right? The more you feel you owe the person giving, the harder it is to take. When I ask, the last few days, yesterday I took a break. Maybe I'll take a break today. I just feel like I need to take a break because of Rabbi Oberlander. But I call people for money. Thank God, people have been very, very generous, and I tell them in all honesty, like, like I'm asking you, you don't anything you give me, I appreciate. Like it's not necessarily a great fundraising tactic, but whatever you give me, I appreciate. Like you don't owe me any money. Like if I helped them, I didn't help them. Some people I didn't never help, but I don't expect anything. Whatever you give me is appreciated. So that makes it hard to ask in a way, because you're asking and it's hard to take, because it's a little easier because it's for the yeshiva, but it's just like it's not, because it's hard to take when you appreciate what people give you, because when you take, you feel you owe them and you're indebted to them, and it's humbling. So people that are givers people that are real givers don't like to take, because they understand. People that are givers, people that are not takers are grateful people. So they're grateful. They don't want to take. They feel too indebted when they take. So Oberlander was a supreme giver and a supreme not taker. Supreme giver, supreme not taker, not taking kavod, not taking honor, not taking things from people, just giving to people. And that's really the second thing, and maybe the last thing that I want the Olam to think about, to learn from, talk to myself, to be more of a giver. We need to take, especially at your age, but to be more of a giver. To be more giver to your parents, giver. He was, Rabbi Oberlander, tremendous hakaras at kibbut aveim. Anytime he was in Brooklyn, I just spoke to someone who was close with him, who worked with him in camp. Anytime he'd go into New York to do interviews for camp, anytime he went to Brooklyn, he visited his parents. It's not necessarily Brooklyn. Could be not 2 minutes next to each other, and it takes time to go. You can't just go to your parents and say hi, goodbye. Anytime he went to Brooklyn, he visited his parents. He had tremendous kibbut of aim. It's also the midah of akar satov, like we've spoken about recently. We give. Givers are happier people. Takers are less happy. To be givers, give. You can't give. Right now maybe you can't give your parents money, but give your parents. Give your parents nachas. Give your parents phone calls. Help your parents with things that they need help with. Givers to your family. Givers to yeshiva. Givers to the guys around you. To be givers versus being takers. Rabbi Oberlander was 45. It's just so heartbreaking. He was 45 years old. 45 years old. I just, asked somebody because I kept on hearing them saying, 46. They were saying 46 because his birthday, this coming Sunday, would have been his 46th birthday. Chaftal Tziva. His birthday was this coming Sunday. So he was almost 46 years old. He's a young man. He accomplished in his 46 years more than most people accomplish in a lifetime. But it's something for us to think about while we're still young. You want to look back at the end of your life and say that know that you gave, not that you just took. Sometimes we have to take, but we want to give. Starts now, and as you get older, you have more opportunities to give. You have a family, you have more opportunities to give. He was incredible husband, incredible father to his kids. To be a giving person, you end up being much happier. It looks like when everyone's cleaning up and everyone's doing something. It looks like a pain in the neck for you to go help. It looks like things are. It sometimes could look like giving is a pain in the neck and it's an inconvenience. But at the end of the day, the givers are the happy people. The givers are the happy people, because when you give, again, you'll get Olam Haba too. But you give, it's good for your Olam Hazeh. When you give, you feel good. You know that you're doing something valuable. You know you're doing something meaningful. When you're taking, nice, you have the whatever you're taking, but that goes away. You don't have anything of true value, of true meaning to you. To teach ourselves, again, every person on their madrega, to push yourself a little more. Push yourself a little more. There's garbage. There's garbage in the dorm. You can. We used to have a game when I was a bacher in the Dira and Eretz Yisrael. Who could fill up the garbage can higher? Because apparently, if you couldn't get one last piece of garbage, then you had to take it out. That's bad midas. I mean, you take out the garbage. Sweep the floor. Someone else made a mess. Again, I don't say you have to clean up after the guy every single time. You should tell him. You can tell him nicely. You have to educate him, but to somebody maybe the person didn't realize or something. So you can clean it up. You can. These are big things. It looks like small things, but these are big things. It makes you a giver. One of the gifts, it's a tremendous gift, and it's unfortunately not completely lishma, but it's a big gift for me running a yeshiva, and because I get to give. Friday afternoon, I get to prepare Shabbos for the Chevra. Now it's not. I wish it was completely lishma. The yeshiva needs to survive, So I have a job here, so I can't say it's completely lishma, but it still makes me a better person. It makes me a better person that I have to set up Shabbos. It makes Ezra a better person that he's going to pick up food. It makes you a better person. It makes you a better person by giving to other people. But every person, some people are naturally bigger givers. Some people are naturally very stingy. But every person, push yourself a little bit past your comfort zone. Push yourself a little bit past your comfort zone. You don't want to really pick up that piece of garbage, but I'll do it anyways. I don't really want to do this. I don't really get on the shelf to get this safe for my chavrusa. Every person on your level, only you know where you are. Every person where you are, you push yourself to give a little more, give a little more, give a little more, and eventually you become a very big person. Inch by inch, inch by inch, inch by inch. And sometimes Hashem gives you a gift and you move 3 feet ahead. But inch by inch, you become a giving person. You become a giving person. And if you're already a giving person, you become a more giving person. If I have to, there's so many great qualities about Rabbi Oberlander, his midos, he stayed calm, he was always calm. Usually organized people should not be calm when things get out of order. I never saw him not being calm. Even when things were out of order, he was calm. He was calm, he was collected, which he certainly worked on. But, again, I may say something else tomorrow. But if I have to say the greatest quality, I would say, is he was a giver. He was a giver. He gave to people his time. He gave to people his energy. He gave people his love. He gave them their heart, and he gave his heart and soul. It was always about the other. It was always about everybody else. It was never about him, which is the definition of a real giver. So in his zechus, we should be zeicha to push ourselves to be bigger, to be greater. Just end off with a thought. I think I heard this from Ray Kalish many years ago. When by a bris you say Zeh katan, Zeh katan gadol yeh. This katan, this small person, should become great. So what are you saying? This small person, this little baby, should become great. So now the baby weighs 8 pounds. So he should be great. He should weigh 160 pounds, maybe 200 pounds, 230. Depending how tall he is. So what type of bracha is that? Katan gadol yeh? Are we davening that he should become, that he should have a long life? So we should say Zeh katan zaken yeh. This katan should become a zaken. Well, you only want him to become a gadol? Gadol's bar mitzvah. But the pshat Ray Kalish said is, which is absolutely true, is we're saying a katan means a person that lives in a small, lives for himself. Babies, Hashem trained them that way, or they wouldn't survive. They cry when they're hungry, and they don't care about the fact that their mother didn't get any sleep, or their mother just had a baby, or their father had a hard day at work. They don't care a hoot about that. They don't think twice before they cry. Should I cry now? I don't want to really bother my parents. They don't think about that. They just cry and they want their bottle. And some people remain that way their whole life. They want money from their mother, father. They want something. They just fetch and ask, and they don't really think about the other person. You say Zeh katan gadol yeh, that the person who's katan, who's small-minded, he's always thinking about himself. Gadol yeh, the definition of a gadol. It says by Moshe Rabbeinu was. It says it's lashon is vayigda ha'ish. The Moshe grew up. The Moshe became gadol. He became great. He went and saw the pain of Klal Yisrael. That's a great person. I mean, in his sickness, he's worried about other people. That's just the ultimate sign of a great person, who's always thinking about other people, even when his life was in danger. He was thinking about in pain. He was thinking about other people. We should be zeicha to become greater people. It should be a schus for his neshama. Rabbi Avram, Zechariah, Menachem, and Tzvi Yehuda, as neshama should have in Aliyah, we should share in Simchas.